everyone, it's Coach Jayla here, and today I'm here to talk to you about my new piece, Shadow Story Number 1 by Katie Icahn. It's an interpretation of a graphic score written by my friend from CalArts, and this piece is semi-improvisatory, so meaning that I planned the piece ahead of time, the things that I want to convey to the audience, but this piece is mostly performed on the spot with no music in front of me. Before we get into this piece, I do want to talk about why this piece means so much to me and why I decided to record it during this semester. As all of you know, there has been a rising amount of hate crime incidents against Asian Americans, and I felt very deeply connected to the community around me, and I felt the need to convey my thoughts on what's going on in our country, as well as how to help and connect to other peoples within the Asian American Pacific Islander community. This piece is basically in a prayer form. You'll hear sounds that are pitched like music. You'll hear sounds that are effects done with extended techniques on the instrument. You'll also hear some syllables and some singing in the music. And all of these things are meant to express the pain, the frustration, and the thoughts that Asian Americans have had to live with in these past couple of months. To begin with, let's start looking at some of the extended techniques that don't involve any pitch. The first things that you'll hear in this piece are basically the first tidal waves of emotion. I like to think of these sounds as water waves crashing onto a beach, thoughts that you may have that are tidal and cyclical. And I was able to achieve these sounds by playing and bowing on the side of my violin, something that traditionally we're not used to. But this is kind of what it sounds like. At the very end of the piece, you'll also hear a variation of this sound, something with a little bit more overtones, the high pitches that you hear sometimes when you play harmonics. And this is done by bowing the bridge. So I'm going to show you how that's done as well. So as you can see, even though I was bowing on the bridge, there were no audible pitch coming out because my left hand is lightly muting the rest of the strings. Both of those sounds you will hear more towards the beginning and the end of the prayer. Now let's move on to the main source of my inspiration behind this piece, and I base the prayer around the tonality of A major and A minor at the same time. That's something that we like to call Poly-Tonality, where we're implementing different keys, or same key but with major and minor, together at once. And you will hear that I was mic'd pretty far away because I wanted to I wanted this prayer to be quite intimate, and I was able to achieve this by using extreme Sul Tasto. So when we're talking about contact point, and we've talked about that at various points in the semester on where the bow touches the string, we have sol pont or sol ponticello, so close to the bridge. We have our normal tone, and then we have our Sul Tasto. When we're playing on the fingerboard, otherwise known as Sul Tasto, we have the opportunity to play distortion sounds. And by overpressuring with the bow, you'll get a very nice distortion sound like you would on an electric guitar. I also started the prayer with extreme Sul Tasto, so instead of playing on the fingerboard, but still around the general region that we play in, I was playing very close to my fingers and over the fingerboard. When you're playing so close to your fingers on the fingerboard, it almost sounds like a pan flute. The timbre of the violin changes a lot, and that's something that I usually like exploring. The last thing that you'll hear in this music are basically syllables that are indiscriminate. They're not very language based. The only thing I would say is it's probably loosely based around Mandarin as a language, since that is my first language, but the words that you'll hear in the piece are not real words in Chinese language. They're basically syllables and gibberish, basically lexicon, as you call them, and they're meant to reflect the growing sentiment on people speaking out against violence, people speaking out against racism and hatred and bigotry, and I basically just did that using whispers and using a lot of consonant sounds. You'll also hear some humming while I'm playing the violin and producing pitch, and I'll show you that right now. And again, the humming is meant to amplify the duality of this piece. This piece was actually meant for two performers, so you'll see the shadow part of the graphic score as well as the color part. And I wanted to approach these at once. And since we are in a pandemic, it was hard to record and play with another performer, so I decided to sing at the same time while I was playing. That's pretty much it for this piece. I really hope you enjoy my performance and interpretation of graphic score, Shadow Story No. 1 by Katie Icahn.